In this lecture, we are going to review the Asilomar principles. We will start by defining what Asilomar is, and then look at the 23 AI principles. And you are not going crazy. You did hear that number correctly. There are 23 of them. Thankfully, I think there are only a few that you need to focus on, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So what is Asilomar? Well, this actually refers to the Asilomar Conference Grounds in Pacific Grove, California. And these principles are referred to as the Asilomar principles because these conference grounds were home to a 2017 conference on beneficial AI. The conference was organized by the Future of Life Institute, and more than 100 thought leaders throughout the artificial intelligence world were present at the conference. Again, there are 23 principles across 3 different categories. Those 3 categories are research, ethics and values, and longer-term issues. If you're interested in searching up the full 23 values, of course, you're welcome to do that. I think that the AIGP exam is really focused mostly on the ethics and values, and so that's what we're going to focus on. I've divided the ethics and values up across 3 slides to make this a little bit more palatable for you. The first slide here goes over principles that we've seen in other lists of principles before. They include safety, responsibility, and accountability, human values such as dignity, rights, freedoms, and cultural diversity, personal privacy, liberty and privacy, and human control. Because these are all principles and values we've already come across, I won't dive into these here. Instead, I'm going to focus on talking about the ethics and values that we haven't seen or require at least some qualification. The second group of values include value alignment, shared benefit, and shared prosperity. The principle of value alignment means that our AI systems, their values, should be aligned with human values. And as you can imagine, human values are going to vary across the planet by culture and so forth. However, I believe, and I think many others do believe, that there are some core shared values and that AI systems should be held to those values, that those values create a structure within which these systems should operate. Shared benefit, this means that systems should empower as many people as possible. And shared prosperity, that all of humanity should benefit from these systems. The last group of ethics and principles that we're going to look at are failure transparency, judicial transparency, non-subversion, and AI arms race. That last one there seems a little weird to include with ethics and principles, but I think we'll understand why that's here in just a moment. So failure transparency means that we as human beings, as the operator of these AI systems, should be able to determine why a system has caused harm if it causes harm. A synonymous term that we've already seen would be traceability. Whatever the output of a system is, to the extent possible, we want to be able to trace that output backwards to try and determine why that output was generated. Judicial transparency means that any AI system's involvement in the judicial decision-making process should be explainable and auditable. Non-subversion means that power conferred by control of AI should respect and improve social and civil processes. Essentially meaning here that we shouldn't have one individual or one group of individuals who, because of their control of an AI system, are able to dominate the planet. We don't need any evil James Bond movies or so forth actually taking place in real life. And the final ethic and principle here is AI arms race. And that means that lethal autonomous weapons should be avoided. There should not be an arms race where 2 or multiple countries, or really any country, is developing a weapon that would be completely autonomous and able to lead to world destruction. In this lecture, we have gone over the Asilomar principles. Remember that Asilomar refers to the Asilomar Conference Grounds in Pacific Grove, California. This was the location of a conference on beneficial AI in 2017 that was organized by the Future of Life Institute. There are 23 principles across 3 different categories: research, ethics and values, and longer-term issues. I think the only ones that you need to focus on for the AIGP exam are the 13 ethics and values. We divided the principles into 3 different groups. The first group include safety, responsibility and accountability, human values, personal privacy, liberty and privacy, and human control. I believe those are almost identical to many of the same terms that we've already seen so far. The second and third group of principles that we looked at are more or less unique. Value alignment, shared benefit, and shared prosperity made up the second group. Again, we haven't seen other principles that have explicitly called out these 3 principles, but I think if you read into the other principle frameworks that we've looked at, you'll see that these are more or less present. And this final group of principles, failure transparency, judicial transparency, non-subversion, and AI arms race, these 4 are all unique to the Asilomar principles. Remember my study tip: when we're looking at a number of different documents that overlap in many different ways, it would just be exhausting and really frustrating to try and commit to memory the principles for each one of these documents, especially with so much overlap. Instead, you should understand the underlying spirit and the language of these principles. And with regards to committing to memory for the exam, remember the outliers. And this third group here, failure transparency, judicial transparency, non-subversion, and AI arms race, these are unique to the Asilomar principles.